I played Dark Souls 3 for the very first time.
Yes, indeed.
That's right, more than 9 years since the game's release, I'm finally getting to it. Granted, I've only been into the Soulsborne games since Elden Ring came out a few years ago. Now holy shit, it's been that long? Anyway, after playing From Software's catalog in the most random order possible, I finally got around to playing Dark Souls 3, which means I only have Dark Souls 2 left to play. Not right now though. Honestly, not sure when I'll get to that one, especially with the horror stories I've heard about it. I'm sure it's not actually that bad, but that is not what this video is about. This is about Dark Souls 3, and I want to talk about my experience with it. So, if you're interested in that, be sure to stick around. And while you're here, I kindly ask you to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really goes a long way, and any support means a lot to me. But with that out of the way, let's get into it. I didn't go into the game entirely blind. I had heard a lot about it leading up to playing it, the most common thing being that it was the best Dark Souls game. And after playing it, yeah, it most certainly is. Coming off the back of the jank fest that is Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 3 is incredibly refreshing. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed Dark Souls 1 a lot. Its level design, a masterclass in the craft. The story and atmosphere, incredibly captivating and immersive. Quailag? Actually, no comment on that one. But the game is starting to show its age, and comparing it to FromSoft's later installments, it shows this formula being built upon and becoming more and more refined. By the time we get to Dark Souls 3, here is a game that just feels damn good to play. This is like the peak of Dark Souls gameplay. It is responsive and fast-paced, the combat basically plays like a diet version of Elden Ring's, the enemies and bosses are tough but fair, offering a decent challenge with a very rewarding satisfaction once you overcome them. To me, at least, nothing is super crazy or overpowered like some of the things you would encounter in Elden Ring. Though Elden Ring offers you more tools to become equally overpowered, I would still consider it the hardest of the Souls games. Dark Souls 3 offers a more balanced, consistent experience with nothing ever feeling overwhelming. I would still absolutely recommend Elden Ring to a first-time Souls player, but I think Dark Souls 3 is just as good of an option too. I actually ended up getting all the achievements in the game, which was not fun, but not exactly not fun either. I beat the game and the DLCs after like 25 hours. The rest of these grueling hours were spent mindlessly farming enemies for some damn Covenant rank up items and going through New Game Plus cycles to find rings you can only obtain once you beat the game. I don't ever want to hear about no damn proof of a Concord kept ever again. I have been responsible for the deaths of hundreds and hundreds of Silver Knights, and whoever the hell else I had to farm to get these stupid items. I don't think I could do this for Dark Souls 1 or 2. The brain cell loss will just be too much to sustain. When I first started the game, I immediately noticed the quality of life changes that the Dark Souls games needed. Again, I haven't played Dark Souls 2 yet, so some of these changes could very well be there too. But for one, you don't end up jumping out of a sprint when you actually meant to dodge, since they made the bind for the sprint jump as pressing the left stick. Thank God they made that change. It was always a nightmare to deal with in Bloodborne and Dark Souls 1. Weapon and armor durability are basically non-issues since they reset every time you rest at a bonfire. It's something I shouldn't have to worry about, so I'm glad they made that change. Speaking of bonfires, they are pretty abundant in this game. There are no really annoying runbacks in this game like there were in Dark Souls 1, and from what I've heard, Dark Souls 2 as well. Long, enemy-filled runbacks to a boss fight being part of the difficulty has always been more of a nuisance than a fun challenge to me, and they can sour the experience of the boss fight. I am very thankful they rectified this in Elden Ring as well as Dark Souls 3 for the most part. Also, being able to travel from bonfire to bonfire off-rip is very convenient, though it's kind of a necessity in Dark Souls 3 because the world is not as interconnected as Dark Souls 1. And being able to travel to any bonfire and not just a select few like in Dark Souls 1 is a welcome change for sure. Another huge improvement is the omnidirectional dodging. In Dark Souls 1, you can only dodge in 4 directions, which can be really hard to get used to if you're coming from the newer games. I think it goes up to 8 directions in Dark Souls 2, but Dark Souls 3 allows for dodging in any direction. The main hub of the game, Firelink Shrine, has basically everything you need. You don't need to run or fast travel to other areas of the game for a blacksmith or a merchant. It's all there, and it's very convenient. Wow, I'm making it sound like I really hate Dark Souls 1.
And I've got to say, in all honesty, it's the biggest piece of dog shit.
For the record, I don't. I do really like Dark Souls 1, and I've been meaning to replay it. It's just there are a few inconveniences like the ones I've been listing that I could do away with. I do think they add to the game's unique charm. They don't take away from the game's playability, and it's really cool to see the kind of early groundwork of the later games, but they also are just kind of frustrating to deal with, and not the kind of frustrating I'm typically looking for in these games. This could just be a symptom of me playing the later installments first, but I don't know. I would still very much recommend it if you're into these games but haven't played it yet. Back to Dark Souls 3, I want to talk about just how cool the story is, or at least what I've been able to gather from it. So, in Dark Souls 1, your goal is to link the first flame to keep the Age of Fire going. The first flame, which had birthed this game's universe, gets weaker and weaker over time, and linking it becomes less effective with each attempt. By the time you get to Dark Souls 3, the Age of Fire is at its end, and linking it is like this pitiful attempt to keep it alive for just a bit longer. Dark Souls 3 literally takes place at the end of space and time in the Age of Fire. Everything is distorting and folding on top of each other. It's really cool imagery. You know, people are questioning if it is even worth linking it. They are welcoming the new age, which supposedly is supposed to be an age of water in the sea, which means ocean-themed game with pirates confirmed, guys. That's their new IP. Wet Souls 2027. Can't wait. Seriously though, that would be really cool. Another topic for another video though. As you play through Dark Souls 3, you notice everything is crumbling, ashy, and past its prime. Places from Dark Souls 1, like the Bright and Grand and Orlando, are now diminished into hollow shells that only echo what they once were. People have given up on the Age of Fire, and you, the Ashen One, begin to contemplate if you should even maintain the cycle, or just let nature take its course. There could be some deeper themes of accepting change and letting go of the past, but that's not this kind of video. Regardless, the way all these things are depicted in the game is really cool. If you pay attention to your surroundings and the background, you get a little bit of this uncanny existential dread from it. To link the fire, you need to return the Lords of Cinder back to their thrones in Firelink Shrine. The thing is, they don't want to do that. They want to let the fire fade, so you need to kindly ask them to come back with your giant f***ing club. Once the Lords of Cinder have voluntarily given up their fires, you arrive at the Kiln of the First Flame, where you go up against the Soul of Cinder, the embodiment of all those who have linked the fire, like Gwyn from Dark Souls 1, as well as your own player characters from the previous Dark Souls games. It uses familiar moves from the various weapons the player characters can wield, and I think some moves from Gwyn as well. And it has this very emotional finality to it, like, look how far you've come. You've made it to the end of an age. It is a really cool send-off to the series, and it all comes full circle in the second phase of the fight, where there is a leitmotif of Gwyn's boss theme from Dark Souls 1. I don't want to dwell too much on the story surrounding this game because I'm still trying to grasp it, and I'm sure you already know what I'm talking about anyway, though it was very much still worth mentioning because it's just so damn cool. Another thing that is very cool in this game is the boss design. This game has many standout boss fights across the entire Souls genre. Abyss Watchers, Pontiff Sulyvahn, Dancer of the Boreal Valley, Nameless King, Soul of Cinder, Sister Friede, the Demon Princes, Midir, and Gael are all fantastic fights in my opinion. There are a few more, but I'd say the bosses are the strongest part of this game. To me, the strongest part of Dark Souls 1 is the level design. There are for sure some pretty cool fights in there too, but the interconnectedness of the world was what really amazed me. How everything branches out and connects back to Firelink Shrine in that game will never not impress me. In Dark Souls 3, the levels look great, especially Irithyll, but the layout of it all is not as strong and it's more disconnected. Still really impressive. Not Irithyll Dungeon though. But what is more impressive in this game is the boss fights. I said this earlier, but I didn't find any of the fights to be incredibly difficult. They were obviously tough, but it was all very manageable. That could be credited to me having a pretty good strength build or having hundreds of hours of experience in these types of games at this point, most likely a mix of both. Everything felt like a tough but fair challenge. Like, no BS, just a nice back and forth scrap between you and godlike beings. The game strikes this nice balance of difficulty where nothing is super overwhelming but not a pushover either. I feel like Elden Ring's boss design can sometimes teeter towards that overwhelming side. Not necessarily a bad thing, especially with how overpowered you can also get in Elden Ring, but it's just an observation worth making. I'm thinking about doing a tier list video of all the bosses in Dark Souls 3. Let me know if you're interested in that, and if you are, I might want to do the same for the other Souls games as well. I'll save most of the specific boss talk for that potential tier list video, but I'll mention a few things here. The first Lord of Cinder boss, the Abyss Watchers, is really cool. They are very intentionally reminiscent of Artorias from Dark Souls 1, who might be my favorite fight from that game. They also have some Bloodborne elements in their outfits too, so bonus points there. They were tasked to eliminate the Abyss, which Artorias had tried in Dark Souls 1, but ultimately was consumed by it. The fight opens with a cutscene of two of the Watchers clashing, with one impaling the other with a greatsword, then hitting one of the hardest poses in gaming at you with a sword and dagger. From what I understand, the Watchers must destroy the Abyss in even its slightest form, and it seems to be heavily implied that they've been fighting the Abyss for so long that they're all corrupted by it, so they see it in one another, hence the infighting between them. It is their obligation. They even fight each other in the boss fight. It's like a semi-gank sort of FFA boss fight. It is really freaking cool, and the heat starts to turn up in the second phase, and you get hit by another fire pose. Pun obviously intended there.
Oh, brother, this guy's still.
In this phase, it looks like all the Watcher's souls or essence fuse into the main one you've been fighting, and he gets powered up with fire attacks, which can do a lot of damage if you're not careful. It's a fast, sometimes chaotic back and forth fight. One of my favorites from the game for sure. Another great one, not those great ones, is Pontiff Sulyvahn. He is the first boss you fight in Irithyll, dual-wielding enchanted greatswords, one with fire and the other with, I think, dark, giving me Rolana flashbacks with that one. He can easily catch you slipping up with his sword mix-ups, dealing great damage in the process. In the second phase, he sprouts wings and can do some aerial plunge attacks, as well as clone himself, which can be quite annoying to deal with if you don't dispatch the clone quickly. I think he is one of the hardest fights in the base game. I don't know if that's a crazy take or not. Still didn't take me very long, cause, you know, I'm just sauced up like that. Sorry about that, please don't click off. I'll dip into the DLCs a bit here now. Sister Friede is probably the hardest fight in this game. I'd say either her or Madir. It's still manageable, but it's a war of attrition, being a 3-phase, 3 health bar boss fight that becomes a duo boss in the second phase. First phase is nothing crazy. She just has some scythe combos with frost attacks. Second phase becomes a bit troublesome because Father Ariandel, whom she's guarding, breaks loose, revives her, and becomes part of the fight as well, crawling around, spreading and shooting fire, as well as doing wide sweep attacks with his giant vessel. What an iconic cutscene during the phase transition too. It's very likely you've seen this part of it circulate online and memes and stuff. They do share a health bar, so you can just hack away at Father Ariandel's larger hurt box and occasionally dodge Friede's assault. Just be mindful of her trying to heal their health in the back. Once you kill Ariandel and Friede again, she comes back just one more time, now enhanced with Black Flame. You cannot mess around in this phase. She has extended double scythe combos, can easily proc frostbite on you, as well as destroy your health bar with black flame trails and explosions. She is fast throughout the whole fight, but if you are adept in your timing and positioning, you can get around to backstabbing her off a few of her combos. That can help a lot during the fight. Overall, an iconic, thrilling marathon of a boss battle. The last one I'll mention is the final boss of the Ringed City DLC, Slave Knight Gael. Yeah, I can't make a Dark Souls 3 video without talking about Gael. It's literally impossible. I've heard so much hype surrounding Gael prior to playing the game, so I did have high expectations for when the fight with him ultimately came along, and yeah, it delivered. You're like fighting him at the end of time, everything is crumbled and consumed by ash and dust. Do you time travel to get to this fight? I don't know. What I do know is this fight is top tier. He is like the Dark Souls boss. I'm not even sure I can properly articulate why that is. It just is. He's tough but incredibly fair. You know, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I did beat him on my first try. Vigor check for the win. Real quick, I guess that's another thing I found really interesting in this game. I don't know if this is true because I haven't looked at the numbers, but it feels like you get a way bigger return on your health investments in this game. You're always getting upgrades to your Estus Flask, it feels like you get way more bang for your buck in leveling your Vigor, and if you activate an Ember, which you get plenty of in this game, it gives you like a 30% HP boost. I mean, you're like a walking damage sponge. You guys let me know if this is accurate or if I'm making any sense. Anyway, back to Gael. He's got sword combos, projectiles, explosions, really cool cutscenes, a cinematic arena. He literally name drops the game, guys. I mean, come on. This fight feels like the culmination of what From Software had learned making these games up to this point, and it is a proper way to close out the series. Like the Soul of Cinder fight, the finality to it is palpable. There is nothing left after this. You are at the end of time. Nothing remains except a small spark of hope, where you help usher in a new, cold, gentle world painted into existence from the Dark Soul itself. How nice. I give this game 2.8 Dark Souls out of 3, baby. What an incredible game. There are a few things that I don't exactly love or understand, like the split stats for stamina and equip load, as well as the more disconnected world, and the Covenant rank up system, which really just comes from my mindless grind to get all the achievements. Seriously, getting all of Elden Ring's achievements was so much nicer than this. But these things don't really detract from the experience very much, if at all. If you're like me and had your Souls introduction with Elden Ring and want to get more into FromSoft's catalog, Dark Souls 3 is a great next step. It's also a really great choice if you want to get into these games, but you think Elden Ring might be too large or ambitious to take on first. Either way, I highly recommend Dark Souls 3. And yeah, those are my thoughts on the game after I just played it for the first time. They might change and develop through subsequent playthroughs, but that's where I'm at for now. Again, let me know in the comments if you're interested in that boss tier list video. I might just do it anyway because I'm on a Souls kick at the moment. I'm actually replaying Bloodborne currently, and I might make a video on that, even if it might be a tired subject on YouTube. I just love it so much. Also, obviously Elden Ring Night Rain has been out for a little bit now. I do want to make a video on that as well, even though the initial hype has died down. My friends and I are still having a blast with it, so do let me know if you would be interested in a Night Rain video. But with that, I will leave this video here. Please like it if you made it this far, It helps enormously. I'm trying to get back into consistently uploading videos, and any support to get them back out there means the world to me. Please consider subscribing to the channel, I would greatly appreciate it. But other than that, have a fantastic rest of your day. I hope to see you soon, and of course, thank you so much for watching. Oh. I did it. I just Vigor check everything and then just spam attacks, spam big attacks. That's the strength build right there for you.